Yeah.
Well, oh,
Yes. I'm calling the April 8th meeting of the Fallbrook Regional Health District Board into session. And I will ask for a establishment of a quorum.
Yes, we have quorum.
Thank you. Pledge of allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Have a motion to approve minutes.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
and you actually meant the agenda.
I meant
Minutes.
minutes, agenda.
That too.
Okay,
All
so
right.
still Howard and still Sally, correct?
All right.
Okay, just making sure.
Very good. Sorry about that.
Alex is online, so he's still watching us.
You better watch us pretty good, I guess. Okay, we're gonna move on to public comments for items not on the agenda.
Do we have any public comment?
Okay.
Nobody in the room, and we did double check, we don't have any, we did not receive anything via email.
Okay. And you can swing us down to item D if you would.
Working on it? Yes, you. Kel's gonna start getting nervous sitting at her computer. Just trying to get us to D.
Thank you. Okay, consent items. Let's take a look at those and see if there are any that need to be pulled for discussion before we move on.
We'll go through them slowly.
So it's the minutes.
Wait a minute, why, do we usually go through them?
No,
slowly?
no, you don't have to go through them. So it's just the minutes of the March facilities, minutes of the March board, the strategic planning, and then the report from Chief Programs Officer, CEO. So those reports are included in your consent agenda.
In our packet, in a consent. Any board member wish to pull an item from consent? A motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Opposed? Okay. Item E, discussion items. Well, Finance Committee, you were busy this whirl around. Thank you
We
so
sure
much. The work that you did, it's getting us ended for this year and getting us ready for next year. So Howard, what would you like to say to us about the information we received?
Well, let me tell you that on April 1st, Sally DeVito and I met with our administrative staff and reviewed a number of things. Report number one was the balance sheet for February 2026. Our total assets were $13,455,771. Our total liabilities, $124,029. So our total equity is a whopping $13,331,742. Report number two was the P&L from July, the beginning of our fiscal year in July through February 2026. Our total income was $1,656,193. Our total expenses were a bit higher than that, $1,723,334. So our net operating income for that period of July through February was a loss of $67,142. We did have other income during that period of $348,088. So our net income with the other income figured in was $238,443. At any time anybody wants to ask about those, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll keep rolling on. Report number 3 was the profit and loss actual versus year-to-date budget through February. Our total income was, as I said above, $1,656,194 versus $1,760,829. Our property tax revenue was under budget for that period of $100,792. As we all know, our property tax revenue kind of goes up and down during the year, and so a loss in any particular month is not disconcerting. Let's see, our expenses were $1,723,335 versus a budget of $2,188,990. So why were our expenses lower than we had budgeted? Well, for one thing, we have budgeted $200,000 for the North County Fire ambulance. That has not come through at this point. Our community health contracts were $80,000, and our district direct care services $333,000. So our net income was $248,443 versus a loss, budgeted loss of $428,161. So
Howard, before we leave this report, may I ask a question?
you betcha.
Okay. This is the one that is so important because it shows us year to date, and the far column shows us whether we're ahead or we're over or under the budget for that item. And so I want to assure myself, what does all that red mean? Because red to me is bad in finance land.
Red in the expenses means that we actually have not spent as much as budgeted. So red in the expenses is actually good. Red in the revenue is less than good.
Thank you. I
Good
just
question.
wanted everybody to have a little color lesson there so that we don't look like we're bleeding.
Yes, no.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think it's weird
I know,
every month.
but we're, Howard.
Yeah.
No, it's just we're not her, the accountant.
However, given all that,
Yes, please.
we were $604 over budget in terms of our net income. So that's good news, huh?
Yes. Mhm.
And it was because mainly of those big expense items that had been budgeted that hadn't happened yet. So our report number 4, which Susan prepares for us every month, is our investment compliance report, of course, for February. We have 3 funds. First one, local agency investment fund, which we fondly call LAIF. And in that fund, we have 390 at the end of February, $390,041. That fund is 4.53% of our total portfolio. The February average yield was 3.871%. Another fund that we have is CalTrust. In that fund, we have $6,726,073, which is 78% of our portfolio. The 1-year yield for our medium-term fund within CalTrust was 4.06%, and the 1-year yield in our liquidity fund was 4.29%. And the last of the 3 is California Class. In February, our balance was $1,486,543. That represents 17.8% 28% of our portfolio, and the 30-day average yield was 3.7428%. Susan has told us that our investments are in compliance with the district's 2025-26 investment policy. Any questions about that? All right. Ms. DeVito and I reviewed the check detail report, make sure that that was all up and up, and we believe that it was, and we approved that report. Same thing with credit card statements. We reviewed all of the charges and believe they were appropriate. Almost done, folks. Report number 7 was our community development disbursements as of February 2026. The district has dispersed a total of $117,481. These are primarily, as you can see on our screen, improvements to buildings and grounds and so on. The administration presented to the committee, Ms. DeVito and I, a budget draft for the committee's review. And that draft budget for 2026-27 has a projected $2,731,722. Our projected draft expenses were $1,852,490. And so the total for the community and wellness center expenses were $922,324 for a budget net income of a loss of $44,092. We will later in this meeting talk about this further. We discussed at length the amount of money we should project or have for our contracts, community contracts, and hopefully because of a partnership that would provide clinical services to our community, which would require us to participate in the startup, we decided that and will recommend to the board that next year's budget for community contracts is $200,000. That, Madam Chairman,
Thank you.
is our report.
Appreciate it. Lots of yummy stuff in there. We appreciate it. And the
Trend lines are with us, and the looking forward
ideas are very exciting for our community. I know we're going to talk about them later in this meeting. Board colleagues, any questions regarding the finance report? I want to, somebody made a comment to me. I want to assure you, these two young ladies have their agendas up on their devices. No, I had my iPad last time and I loved it. So no sorries. You're using your tool. I like that.
And also the gentleman is doing the same.
I can't see. Oh, yes, you are. Oh.
Actually, everybody but you is looking at it.
so I'm the odd duck.
I mean, between you and the staff.
Look at that. Well, I just.
Thank you very much.
Well, we still need a motion
For all consent item, for the finance
for
report.
just the finance.
Okay, a motion to approve the finance report? So moved. Second,
Second,
all in favor? Aye. All opposed?
be disappointing if we said no, wouldn't it?
Yes, that would be a surprise. Okay, moving on to item E.
So I'll jump into this one. Obviously Howard has already introduced it, from the grant funding standpoint. The draft budget is including funds for that clinical partnership. By including the funds for those clinical partnership, it does indicate that we'll likely move into a negative in revenue for the year. What that means is we need to consider to what extent community health contracts will be funded. So we had a significant conversation at the finance committee, and there's a general understanding of the importance of the grants. We have been discussing with the grantees for several years now that those funds would be decreasing in availability. So this year, the conversation around what's available and the tolerance for being able to move into the red this first year, if and should that clinical partnership come online. The judicious conversation came about to make the grants available to the tune of about $200,000, and to also consider the fact that the grant agreement, multi-year agreement we have with North County Fire, move from a $200,000 a year contribution to potentially a $100,000 contribution. Whether or not that is multi-year or whether or not we just extend it for one more year, that's all part of tonight's conversation for the board to discuss. But that's the consensus around what was brought forward from the Finance Committee.
And so this is a conversation about readjusting priorities and financial wherewithal to match the highest priorities. And another way to understand it is the community health contracts and the health and wellness center activities and the opportunity to bring clinical services here all have to be at play at once now. It's been layered for a while, a layer, okay, only community grants, but now it's all going to come together. Luckily, we have a healthy investment portfolio so that we can plan multi-year without endangering shocks all over the place. But this is the year when we will see a definite reduction and increase kind of conversation with our community partners. So I want to thank you, Rachel, for that. It's been a 3-year conversation you've had with folks as we got the Health and Wellness Center up. We knew this time was coming. And now this golden opportunity to get clinical services here is actually here.
Right. And again, clinical services has been the #1 strategic priority for the board and from community feedback since the closure of the hospital.
And we know this animal, but could you tell a little bit about what clinical services would look like? That's a term that hasn't been used over time for our community. So
sure. So when we're discussing clinical services, there's been a long interest in having an urgent care in town that provides true urgent care services. The current urgent care provider has very limited hours, and so that has been a concern to the community. The partner that we're discussing services with right now would be able to bring urgent care services. It would not be 24-hour, let's be clear. There is no way at this point with our population to be able to stand up a 24-hour urgent care. But we are talking about true extended hours. That hasn't been negotiated to what time, but it would be more than 10 to 4. Let's be clear on that. It would also include some weekends. Mm-hmm. It would also, through this partnership, be able to expand some options for primary care and bring in rotating specialists. So the district would be able to work with this partner to bring in on some form rotating specialists in potentially cardiology. There was some conversation around endocrinology with the district's focus on diabetes care and a few others depending what this group can bring in. This group that we're negotiating with, I actually had a phone call with yesterday. They are motivated. We are working together to bring together a pro forma proposal so that we can have an idea of what that looks like and then truly be able to negotiate what that cost would be. But when we're talking about clinical services, we are primarily talking about access for urgent care services and those specialty services, the things that with the closure of the hospital have truly impacted the community. We do have a number of smaller providers for primary care. This would not endanger them. It generally provides for urgent care and specialty, which gets referred out of town.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Nice synopsis. So this proposed $200,000 seed money, is that a good way to put it? For clinical services?
It's not $200,000 for clinical services. So clinical services are being budgeted for $500,000 for this year.
Yes.
The grants are being proposed at the $200,000.
Thank you very much. I got my digits. So, as we discuss this, Howard, is there anything you want to bring up particularly? Or,
No.
okay. So friends, I know we had a time with the agenda before the meeting. What kind of questions are emerging for you? Because June will be the vote for the 2027.
At this point, we're anticipating that the budget for fiscal year 26-27 will be able to come forward in June.
So we want to make sure we're April, right?
We're in April. We could bring it forward in May, depending on conversations and a few other things. But I wanted to try to push it to June to see if we can get a little more information.
Yeah, I'd say keep the June rhythm here. I mean, that's when we usually do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think about all these things that are coming our way, colleagues? What are you sensing them in terms of your own view of our work in this community and how it might rest with your friends and neighbors that you have? Is this good news? Is this scary news? What is this?
I think it's really good news. You know, when I'm out in the community talking with constituents, it's one of the more consistent questions that I get is, you know, respect to urgent care. And I think it's long overdue. The hospital's been closed down for over 10 years now. And so I think it's really exciting. It's going to represent a big change to the way things have gone for the last several years with respect to grants. And but I really appreciate what Rachel said about, you know, that she's been making the grant recipients aware for every year. And even before I became a board member, and you and I would have our discussions about, you know, the history of the board and everything, like that was part of that discussion. That
It's part of the grant training conversation every year.
so I think it's a good change, and I think it'll have a really positive impact on the community.
Great. Any thoughts from you all? A woman with 2 children and a young woman on her own, how does this land for your demographic?
I think it's important having these conversations and having a partner that wants to come to this area as well too. We're still San Diego, but we're sometimes unknown when you talk to people. So it's good having that, bringing that in here. And in regards to the grant, I feel like because we are already in the facility moving and getting all of our stuff building there, moving along there, that I hope that we continue the partnership and kind of do more of that with having our building there. So we don't lose any of our partners, but understanding that the urgent care is important to have close or near us. Yeah.
Rachel, what about radiology?
They would be able to bring in full imaging.
Yeah, I mean, mammography would be great. We lose so many people that can't drive out of town.
Yeah.
That's a real hardship.
The partnership has discussed the ability to bring in mobile services, if not there all the time. And not mobile, like we here get,
Right, but
Yeah.
bring in a big
but
trailer.
real
Yeah,
mobile.
yeah.
And would that include CT or?
should be able to. Again, that's gonna have to be part of the conversation of what the startup costs and the investment in bringing that service into blank slate. So there's gonna be an initial investment to stand it up, and then a conversation of what the ongoing operational support is until it's eventually able to break even or make money, if you can make money in the medical world these days.
You'd like to say, Fran?
I was gonna say the same, transportation wise, it's gonna be really good, especially cause a lot of people here don't drive or don't have, are unable to receive a license or are in fear of driving out of town, being, stopped or anything like that. So, yeah, having something closer would encourage them to be able to go seek medical help if they ever needed it, instead of just like, I'll deal with it at home. Yeah.
And then to address that, that transportation thing, we are working with the partner to make sure that they are along the route that bus serves, so that public transportation can access.
Good strategic thinking.
As I've been involved since 2014.
Yes, you have.
And the two most important things that we will do and have done is, one, the health and wellness center for this community, and secondly, urgent care. If we can accomplish that, we've done a lot.
Thank you, Howard. Spoken as the historian. Beautiful. Here's what I'm sensing is, Rachel should proceed with the finance team and with the finance committee on these assumptions that we've just discussed, the relative ratio and proportion of community grants versus clinical services versus wellness center priorities, just so she doesn't get any surprises down the lane that really whack the whole framework of the budget. So is that a fair representation of what you all are feeling?
Yes.
Okay. Any closing comments?
No, I mean, I can, from having been on the grantee side, I know that this is a challenge this year. We did change the grant process so that it was less program specific and more agency specific, which would give the grantees more freedom to any grant funds that we're able to make available. So that was a deep part of the conversation, knowing that we were trying to be very strategic and still be supportive of our nonprofit partners. So that's something I want you to know is very much on our mindset in building that out. So this budget that was presented, it was clearly draft. There's a number of things we've found. There's a few different things we've been able to change. Obviously, we had a staff change with Judith Oswald leaving the district. Bianca Heiming has also left the district. They're both exploring new adventures. So we have reorganized how we plan to do the program staff out of the Wellness Center, and we're actively looking at that. That impact is being folded into the budget as well. So know for the board that that is part of why this budget is a little bit later. We're trying to be very proactive to the moment of what these costs will look like, so that when you get the budget, they're as accurate and real estimations as possible. You'll find that in this year's budgeting, I've been pretty close to the prognostication of property tax revenue. We get a general idea of what it's going to be from the county first part of the year, but we also do our own budgeting, projecting growth. I was a little bit more generous with that presumption this year. It looks like I'm probably not going to hit my budgeted mark. It's probably going to be under the revenue. With that in mind, creating the 26-27 budget, I've gone back to a more conservative evaluation. The current economy at large is also a little bit more volatile. So I'm taking a little more conservative stance on some of that. So just know that I am putting those assumptions into the budget file. So when you're presented with that, you will get a list of assumptions when you get that. So don't be surprised. I'll try to make sure that that narrative is very clear and easy to get to. The other part, and since Annabelle's holding up the graphs, can you hold up the graphs? I wanted to, this is more contextual than really anything else. It's been presented to the Strategic Planning Committee and it was presented to the Finance Committee so that also for the community, you can see where, and yes, I like my pie charts. So if you're used to my pie charts, yes, I did it again. So you'll see the district allocations of property tax revenue from fiscal year 23-24, then 24-25, and then our projected 25-26. And really what I would like to point out is the two areas that are in the kind of teal blue and lighter blue, those are the district direct care services and the district direct care staff. So these were the folks who are making programming happen at the Wellness Center. Again, one of the priorities from the Wellness Center from beginning has been to bring services there that are not readily accessible in the community, not to be duplicative of our efforts there that you can already receive in the community. So you're seeing a growth in those services over the last few years as we brought in program staff, as Teresa has been able to get community services into those services or into those areas. You'll also see district operations have grown, obviously, with some of the staff. But what we're really trying to do is break down and show what district staff that are administrative versus district staff that are program related. District operations generally stays pretty similar. That's going to be things that we don't really have much control of. Obviously, you are an elected board. So if we have an election, the district pays for the election. There's a number of compliance things, insurances. That's what really falls under those district operations, as well as some of the facilities things that aren't building specific. But you'll see those three pie charts kind of show those allocations over those 3 fiscal years. We can go to the second step. Again, just really kind of pointing out that in fiscal year 23-24, 14% of our funding went towards district direct care services. In fiscal year 24-25, that percentage goes up to 20%. And then the next slide, in fiscal year 25-26, we'll see that moving up to 23%. I haven't done the math yet, but for fiscal year 26-27, we're probably gonna be a little bit over 25%. So those district direct care services has been the other part of the investment. And again, that goes in line with district's goal for the Community Health and Wellness Center since it was purchased in 2018. So these three were in here just to provide some context for both the board and community to really be able to see where funds have been allocated. The other pie that's probably interesting to the community is the yellow, which is reserves. And those have been funds that were left over at the end of the year that we didn't spend, that were put back into district reserves. Those will be funds that will then be allocated to standing up some of these clinical services that currently sit in our investment portfolio. So it is a closed system, if you will. Those funds will stay in the district to support ongoing district services, not an expectation that we will continue to budget large amounts of money being put into reserves. That's not the point. That's just happens to be what has happened while we've been waiting for the development of clinical services.
We're not a bank.
We're not a bank. The idea is this money will go back into the investment of clinical services. So, and then just for everyone, keep in mind these charts are part of our district packet, so they are on the website, so they can be retrieved at any time. And if anybody wants a copy of that, or you're not, or you can get the big copy, just let me know. But I wanted to bring that forward as part of the conversation so that the board is fully kind of aware of the context from the last 3 fiscal years at least.
Well, and I find it very helpful, the visuals, because it shows the proportionality. Numbers are one thing, but then when you see it in as the whole and you see the trends.
I do love me a good pie chart.
Yeah, you do.
Can I ask something? Is there a goal or a target that we're trying to make sure that we have this pie chart be nicely pie or no?
Not specifically, because it has been evolving as the development of the wellness center comes online. I'd love to be able to say, you know, that we're looking at a quarter. That's just not viable. Until we are fully grown out, of programming at the wellness center, it's tough to see. I think we're getting closer. Teresa put forward a very detailed, thoughtful list of programming for the wellness center this year. They hit all of the strategic priorities from our previous community needs assessment. We're doing another community needs assessment this year to see how well that trend is continuing, and then that should help guide us in programming for the next 3 to 5 years. So you'll see some shifting, but all of these categories are consistent. The percentages, I can't say we have a target. That was a long answer to a short question.
Anything else from my colleagues on this item? We good? Okay. Thank you to all the team that is continuing to work on finally tuning our projections and our budget.
Do you have any questions?
Oh, any further questions from the audience? Okay. All righty, I believe we're on
E3.
E3, thank you. We did E1 and E2. I will say on grant funding, in your packet, thank you. We received 10 applications for grants this year totaling $535,180. So therein lies the challenge, is how we're going to apportion and help those folks as we move ourselves forward into the future. Okay.
And that grant window has closed, so currently I'm running through each of the grant applications, trying to get clarity where there's discrepancies or questions, just more information. Raquel and I will be putting those packets together. We've already got all the downloads. One question to the board: would you like to have your paper binders, or would you like to have it fully electronic on your board portal? Or basically, how would you like to have this delivered to you, so that when you're ready to review it, you've got it in a way that's digestible for you?
How thick is it?
What's your prediction? That's smaller than normal.
It's smaller than normal. It's still deep. Part of it has to do with how much of the compliance documents. There's the 990, which is the nonprofit tax return, basically. It probably doesn't tell you very much in depth, because you're probably not used to reading nonprofit 990s. I do review those. All of our submissions are appropriate. Same thing with their audited financials. You know how our audited financials is long, as is theirs. So far, no one has anything of note that is any kind of red flag. So if it's just the application and the most immediate relevant documents, the budget, the most immediate last profit and loss, it's about 8 pages per. So
80 pages.
About 80 pages. So we can do it in print, we can do it electronically, we can do both. So you can have it electronically in your board packet, and then we can also have it printed out for you. Let us know what you'd like.
Okay, so I'm hearing individuals can say to you, yeah, everybody's gonna get it electronically.
Everybody's gonna get it
So
electronically,
if you
it'll be in
want-
your board packet.
And if you run into things in that electronic packet that you want hands-on, you can say, give me pages 7 through 14, right?
Sure.
Okay, that's quite
And so-
user-friendly.
Yeah, it's much better than the old days of
Yeah,
packets.
yeah.
So let Raquel or I know, and we can make that available. We'll probably have those in your portal in the next week or so. I am still perusing things, and I have some emails out to our applicants for clarity, so that when you get that, you have a little more information and don't have to figure it out on your own.
And can you refresh our memories when they will be due?
Well, they will be due, the idea was for the May board meeting. Which is why, so You'll have to get it back to us about a week before the May board meeting so that we can put it on the agenda, because remember, your decisions have to be made at the May board meeting.
So that's,
It's about 3 weeks from now. That you'll have
But we're
to,
not gonna get the package till next
I'm-
week, so it'll be 2 weeks.
you'll have about 2 weeks to go through 80 pages.
We'll do a special meeting.
yeah,
Just on
I don't
that
know
too.
whether that's. Is this different?
It's really about the same timeline as it was last year, except for the fact that we did the window in February last year, and we did the grant window in March this year. So it did push it closer to the budget file.
Don't know. Well, I guess there are timelines, but that seems different, but I can't.
Yeah, I mean, you can push it to, if the board wants to stay firm to no more than $200,000 in the budget, you can push it to June. Or we can try to set a special date where you guys can have time, a little more time to review it before the June meeting, especially since the June meeting has 2 of you being absent.
Let's think about this a minute, or talk about it a minute. Let's talk about our sense of solidity around the $200,000 allocation, knowing what we're going into. Just not an action item, but just a sentiment from the group. Do we feel solid that 200,000 is the goal, that we stick to that, or we want to have a little bit of room?
And that is 21% of the budget, correct?
Historically, it wouldn't necessarily be for this year, but at different times of the year, yeah.
So it's been anywhere from, looks like
It will be lower.
It would definitely be lower. Yeah, it would definitely be lower than 21% of the budget.
I have picked and screened about the decrease in grants for a number of years. But the opportunity with respect to more services at the Health and Wellness Center and urgent care drive me to say $200,000 is what we ought to do. And over time, that may change up again, but I think we've got to do these things.
I feel confident in the 200,000.
you feel.
I would like to see it more visually, that's just me. To be okay with it, to see how much of a drastic change it is from last year to this year.
So last year, we ended up providing about $500,000 in grant funds. So we're talking about,
That's a big.
it's a significant decrease. We also had budgeted that clinical services would come online. Obviously, different challenges came on play. I believe those challenges have been handled, and so that we will see that come online this year. I don't see a significant increase coming in our property tax revenue, so our pie has stayed the same. But the amount of money that we're providing toward the services at the wellness center and the amount of money that will be allocated to the clinical services has taken a much larger percentage than what is projected in the 25-26 that you're looking at. I mean, I can make that chart and send it over, but what you're gonna really see is the parts that will shrink are the reserves investments, and the part that will shrink are the grants. Those are the two areas that will shrink the most. Facilities ends up being pretty much consistent across district operations, the same. The district direct care will grow, and then that will almost double with the urgent care services.
What are you feeling?
Well, this is my first time doing grants.
Right. Yeah, when you think about the $200,000 reduction from the 500,000,
Yeah,
Yeah.
from 500 down
to
to
200.
Yeah.
Given the gain in clinical services and the wellness center, how are you feeling about that?
Well, it is a very drastic change, but I think it's because I haven't really had to do the grant before. I just see the urgency and from the community, the urgency for us to allocate that money to an urgent care. So, I mean, I would agree too, but I mean, I don't mind looking at a pie chart if that helps. Because I'm very good with visuals too, so.
The
Yes.
timeline is the problem because we
Yeah.
have to know, they have to know now how to fiddle with that 200 or not.
So this,
I
We're
can-
not voting, we're just giving our opinion.
Oh.
I mean, I can take the budget and represent it graphically and just send it out. We'll make it part of follow-up at the May meeting so that can be discussed there. I mean,
But that doesn't help us reconcile this quick step on reviewing the grants.
no, I mean, so it pushes the deadlines down. So
I mean,
we,
it can help a little bit knowing that we only have this much amount of money and who other grantees we want to make sure that get that money.
Right.
It helps that, so
Yeah.
instead of, obviously, we're looking at all 10,
Mhm.
but at the same time, just with this money, we can say we need to focus these, whatever number we decide, and will help us
It
a
will,
better
it's a
decision.
good
Yes.
concentrating element, so.
If that helps with the timeline.
So I'm sensing that the
Formally indicated amount for grants for 26, 27 of 200,000 still is at play for us. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so go forth with that and knowing that we can have a broader time of decision-making through, it won't be a 2-week deal.
yes,
Okay,
we can push that out. That hasn't been set firmly because we knew that it was a different process this year. And then we knew that the budget was likely to be impacted more heavily this year. So that was why those deadlines were a little more fluid.
so we've extended the timeline for us to, which is important since we're gonna be have a narrow band of money to give. So we'll have more time to think about that. And then we will deliberate those in June.
You can.
I mean,
So we'll have to determine, we'll probably have to set a special meeting because
Yeah.
you're June time. So we'll probably have to look at a special meeting between May and June.
for grant
For grant
discussion. And that's
discussion.
probably a good idea anyway, just to have that the thing.
Right,
Yeah.
so I can, when Raquel and I make the grant applications available for you to review, I'll have this pie chart, the budget proposed in a pie chart format.
Yeah.
So that you can have that, because I do understand that the budget's hard to look at just with the lines and
Yeah.
numbers. But this can help with that graphic understanding of where those allocations are.
Okay, thank you so much for that conversation. On to E3, review construction proposal. Tell us all about it.
Okay, everything's about money these days. So finally, the very last room in Building B, the education room, and this has just gone through the facilities committee. So room 6 in Building B, just as you remember, is on the back side. It was the room that had the 2 tiny little bathrooms in it. So the proposal that we have we put this RFP out to all of our noticed general contractors through our approved UPCA DIR list. Alex heard me on that one. They were notified that this proposal was out there. We received 1 bid, which is not uncommon since technically this is considered a small job. The general contractor that bid it happens to be the one that is doing the ADA restrooms out there as is. So general contractor knows the property. So this would be building room 6, which is the interior restrooms would be converted to 2 single user, gender neutral restrooms. It would demo, put in new flooring, basically renovate that last room. It is the last room in that building to be finalized.
Nice.
So the bid was for $198,000 and some. This is a basic drawing of it. And I'm gonna have to stand for the screen because otherwise I don't know how to explain it. This was an older drawing. We are no longer putting in a folding wall partition, so please ignore that. This new prep room, it shows that there is no wall. This wall would actually stay in place, but it would create about a 6.5 foot prep room, which would be utilized for if groups come with food, there would be a sink in that room. It also allows for us to set that room up for a nursing room. So if we are doing maternity classes or something of that nature, there's a separate room for privacy there. You'll have 2 restrooms and then, can you scroll that or shrink it down a little bit? Yeah, that's fine. So down below, you'll also see there's a new storage room that would be built. That's important because obviously schlepping the tables and chairs around, we learned very quickly, doesn't work. So this would allow for storage in this last usable room, which would be then last room in the building, and really allow us to finalize the whole space, the flooring, the paint, the ceiling tiles, the light fixtures, upgrading to full brand new ADA restrooms. So that's what the general contractor is putting forward for the $198,000 price, which is consistent for the cost of doing that room.
Connectivity
Connectivity.
in that building would be all out for technology.
Oh, yes. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so it would have a smart TV involved like the rest of the rooms.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
When you say it's consistent,
It's market rate.
okay, is that the only bid that we got?
It was, yeah. So the other 3 didn't even provide us any information, which has been a consistent pattern when we've done these rooms throughout the course of this project. They're too small for the big general contractors. And the smaller general contractors, most of them aren't able to do prevailing wage public works. So this general contractor just happens to kind of Goldilocks right in the middle.
And we know them.
And we know him, we've seen the work. Luckily, the work that they've done on the exterior ADA restrooms came in on target. There haven't been any change orders, and they're actually ahead of schedule. And they've actually been able to really provide us with some alternatives that have saved us some money as far as some of the different flooring options and things that were called out from the original drafts plans.
Okay. Thank you. We'll go back to the agenda. Okay, so that's a discussion item. We have reviewed it.
So we do need to have, we put originally a staff recommendation because it needed to go to facilities. Facilities just met and they're also making the recommendation.
Okay, very good. So, no action needed.
We do actually
Oh,
need.
okay,
Yeah.
discussion. I'm used to discussion action items. May I have a motion to approve the contract for CHWC?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Very good. Discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Well, having been at the ribbon cutting for our accessibility walkways, never knew we would have such a thing. We got to see this team at work, I believe, and they were earnest and tidy and on the point and no yakking around. They were very quite professional as we watched them put in the new toilets. Always a relief to see that. Okay, thank you. Let's go to item F, board member comments and items for subsequent meetings. Holly, comments tonight?
Glad to see that we're moving ahead with important items.
Indeed.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the clinical services.
So we all know not to get ahead of the ball, because you generally don't get to hit the ball. We've said a lot about clinical services tonight and urgent care. We have four very august people in our place, but we have two pivotal kind of communicators there. How are we planning to let the community know this so that it's not little piecemeal?
I think, once we actually have a solid pro forma from this potential partner, and the board has been able to come to some level of negotiation that's in agreement, while we're starting to go through contracts, I think we can then probably announce.
So is the best possible way if people ask us about what's going on to say, you know, it's in progress?
Yeah.
Because we've announced this in a public meeting now,
Oh, yeah.
that clinical services are afoot, including AKA, otherwise known as urgent care services. So it's all right for us to proceed with saying, this is in the offing. We're gonna be excited. It's gonna be a few months.
Yeah,
Is that the right?
I think that's fair to say. We are still in discussion. We have not finalized any level of proposals or negotiations yet, but the discussions are positive and moving forward. The partner is interested and has shown much more commitment to the concept than previous partners have.
Okay, that's good language. Now I have to remember all those words. Will you walk around with me?
We'll just record it and you can just play.
Well, it wasn't the Avocado Festival. Where were we when you were doing the scouting? What was that festival we were at?
Harvest Festival.
Okay, at the Harvest Festival, at our booth, 80% of the questions were about urgent care. 80%, so that Avocado Festival is coming. So now we have some things to say.
The 19th.
Oh, yeah, we have some things we can say without overgoing or under reporting. Okay, thank you very much. I would just like to say that I think the program coordinator and community programs coordinator bifurcation of those two roles vis-a-vis Bianca leaving, I think that is really a smart thing. And we didn't want her to go.
No,
We did not want her to go, but I want to thank you, Teresa and Rachel, for really thinking through that in a strategic way. Because those are going to be community program coordinator and programs coordinator. Those are two pillars that we will build on, and to delineate them, I think is a really great thing. And yes, happy first year anniversary for Jessie, our receptionist, and she's just delightful, and 1 year is a good commitment.
and in this year, she has really stepped up her skill set in getting trained in a lot of HR, payroll, risk pieces. So with Judith's departure as our chief administrative officer, Olga, who we had brought in for finance, really has been able to start assuming a lot of those tasks. Jess had been getting trained up in the other part. So we've been able to take Judith's role and have it separated among those two staff without us losing anything, without me losing too much. Mostly. Yeah, great, it's fine, it's fine. The good part, and Teresa and I had already planned this year in the budget to bring on another programs person, specifically to meet some of those needs of being able to open another night, to be able to open another Saturday. We'd already been going down that plan. So one of the things we've done, and we've actually updated the title, so that one will be the healthy living coordinator. And that person will handle a lot of those lifestyle change programmings, DPP, mindfulness, diabetes, all of those. And then the community programs are the ones who can really kind of take over the CCHW meeting, Wellness Wednesday, a lot of those opportunities for shorter term educational pieces. So Bianca leaving, while we were sad to lose her, we're taking, we're making some lemonade.
You're making some lemonade out of the lemon. I agree.
Yeah, but this also then gives us that opportunity to finally expand to more evenings and probably at least another Saturday.
And as we fund the community grants and it becomes apparent what's not being funded, that's information for us to take into consideration for programming.
Right.
You know, so this can all flow.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Any last comments, board colleagues? Okay,
And remember, you're not allowed to leave yet because we have one more meeting after this.
oh, that's right.
Oh, yeah.
All righty.
Just a quick one.
I'm going to, I'm adjourning this meeting. Do I need a motion and all that?
I think we did.
No,
We can just
no,
adjourn.
you can adjourn, yeah.
Let's do it.
I'm adjourning.
Thank you.
Too many groups I'm in, I don't know what to do.
And then,
You took it.
where are you guys going?
Are we ready?
I got the same.
Perfect.
Are we recording?
Yep.
Okay. I'm calling the Wednesday, April 18th, 2026 Board of Directors Foundation meeting to order. I have a motion to approve the agenda. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Very good. Moving down to public comments. Any public comments there?
Nothing
Scroll me on down.
Nothing on.
Yeah, it's a really thick agenda, as you can see.
Yeah, really. Securing a consultant for grant seeking purposes.
Yeah, this is consideration of, so
Yeah.
there's no action here, it's just, through, CSDA, as we start looking to some of these much broader strategic priorities, we're also talking about at some point, there being brick and mortar, challenges or different priorities that the board may want to pursue. As you can see, there's a finite amount of district property taxes, and at some point, we're going to have to find another revenue stream. The board has made it clear historically that we are not interested in charging for services to be able to increase revenue. Now, the urgent care, obviously, because that's gonna be an outside party, they will bill insurances, they will handle those pieces. That care can't be done for free. There's just not enough revenue. However, the best example I can give to why this is relevant is we look at our brother agency, if you will, North County Fire. And they have secured, I don't know, gazoobles of millions of dollars this last year in securing funds to be able to buy new apparatus, to complete some of the station upgrades. We have different opportunities for grants. The few grants that I've gotten for the district here have primarily been the kinds of things like the public utility district or from the county supervisor. Those are always going to be limited. If we are looking to secure, and this is an example only, let's say we need to secure $10 million to expand for another clinical service area in Rainbow. In order to receive those funds, we would need a professional grant writer. While I can write grants, I do not have capacity to research, write, and then track them. So one of the nice things about having our own 501c3 is it gives us the opportunity to pursue those larger grants without competing with our local nonprofits for locally available funds. Frankly, going after the smaller funds wouldn't support us enough to make it viable. So at some point, I'm probably going to bring forward a proposal to the board to consider for the foundation to have some consultant in grant writing. I probably won't bring that person forward until we have a better idea of what that strategic priority is that we're going to go after funding for, right? Really, in the grants world, you don't just go out and get grant funds. You have to go out and get grants funds for something.
Yeah.
And we don't have a thing yet to go for that would be truly reasonable and competitive. That doesn't, the grantor isn't going to look at our monies and say, well, you put 20% of your revenue into your reserves. Why aren't you using that for infrastructure? We're about to receive that balance again. So this is something I want the board to start thinking of potentially in this upcoming fiscal year, depending what priorities come up. Obviously, I think it's fair, anyone who is paying attention to national politics knows that national grants really took some hits. Fire services and public services hit a different avenue than what we probably would qualify under. But I just wanted to bring that forward for consideration for the board, or I don't know, the next time we hold a foundation meeting in another quarter or so. I may bring that forward, and I didn't want it to be the first time you see it at one of those meetings. So.
Well, I want to thank you for bringing it forward because
Three nonprofits that I'm a part of, they're all wondering, how do we get grants? How do we get grants?
and it all comes back to you need somebody who knows how to do it. It's not an easy thing, and I think it would be a good thing for us to consider. And compensation models, there's
4 or 5 different ways it can be
be done. So we'd have some choices there, but I do think we need to be planning for the future, seeking financial resources to come to us.
Right. So they said that. How you feeling about it? A-okay for her to keep snooping around on that?
That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'll bring that forward as it becomes more relevant. But again, just wanted it to be a surprise, not be a surprise. We would bring it forward under the foundation as the vehicle and not the district. It's much more clear funding a nonprofit than a governmental entity. And again, let's be very transparent. We're not here to compete with our local nonprofits.
Right.
So I'm not going after, I don't know, the same half a dozen nonprofit supporting foundations that you all receive funds from. That's not the goal. It's not the goal.
So be mindful.
Well, and frankly, those grantors don't make the kinds of grant funds available that we would need if we're gonna go to the effort of having a contracted grant writer.
Gotcha.
We're talking in the $1 million and up levels.
Well, I think
We should think big at all times. Audience participation, anything you would like to say before Howdy Doody goes to bed? No? Howdy Doody, huh? Okay, with that, adjourn.
See, told you I'd be back.
Thank you.
Fast.
All right, thanks you guys.
well done.
Thank you, Jen.